podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Ed, how you doing? Have you been jetting around the world having some sun-drenched break to improve your work performance this week?
No, although I have been jetting around the world, currently talking to you from not-so-sunny Barcelona. Catalonia is all right this time of year, but rather grey outside.
You are in the wrong place, basically, aren't you? You're there for the wrong leg. As we record this, Manchester City have not yet played Barcelona. Are you going to go out and watch the game with the locals?
I most certainly will be, and I will be cheering the locals on. Although, not in a kind of small-minded way. Just enjoying City getting a good spanking, hopefully.
I realised how small-minded I am, as all day at work I was just going, Barcelona! It was the first time that we met. I wasn't really aware I was doing it. And then I thought, okay, yeah, that's proper small-mindedness. But hey, lads, it's all right. They might be doing better than us in the league, but we sold more club tour tickets today. Apparently, the museum sold out of club tours for Barcelona fans coming to visit Manchester.
Very, very good. All three of them. Yeah, club tours, that is. Interesting little spat this week, isn't it? Pellegrini and Zabaleta suggesting that City are now bigger than United, and then there's the side piece with Mourinho and Pellegrini, which is just joyous. I have to say I'm thoroughly enjoying that argument between the two of them. Pellegrini, Mourinho and Wenger, I should say, because they've all been having to go at each other this week. And then this ridiculous argument that City are somehow bigger than United. Although I did like Dani Alves's comment that he didn't realise there were two clubs in Manchester until about 5 years ago. Well, quite, Danny.
I mean, yeah, I think that's just a language thing, I don't think he was... I think it's all very easy to jump up and down about that, but really, all he was saying is that they're the more relevant side at the moment in Manchester, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's much like Arsene Wenger's argument that power had shifted to Arsenal all those years ago. If power, you mean no trophies, then yeah, I suppose so.
I thought of you when Mourinho called Wenger a specialist in failure, because I thought that's like the kind of sort of thing that you'd say about Arsene Wenger.
Ouch! I thought it was a good line, personally. I did not write it for Monsieur Mourinho.
But yeah, I mean, because he has really got a point. He really has. Everyone was up in arms, but he really does have a point about that, doesn't he? Because Arsene Wenger's last 6-7 years or whatever it is have been a catalogue of failure from quite a position of strength.
They have, although of course Wenger had the last laugh after the weekend, didn't he, with Arsenal going through against Liverpool and Chelsea going out against Manchester City rather comfortably as well. City won that game. So last laugh on Wenger. But Mourinho, of course, he's a man who's got 16 major trophies to his name and some of the biggest possible to win. So I suppose when he can talk about success and failure and stand on some kind of high horse. It was rather graceless, I thought, though, despite the fact that he may be talking from a position of strength.
I can't believe you said high horse. He's a little horse. He's made that abundantly clear.
Yes, doesn't make any sense to me, that one, still. Anyway, do they have horses in the UAE? I think they do, but I didn't see any United players on them this week. I did see them on the beach, at a bar, hanging out with a coke fiend, also former greatest player on the planet, I might add, hanging out in various bars, and with Michel Salgado and son, rather randomly. United's hardcore training camp in Dubai.
I don't mind them having a chilled out time. I think they probably could do with that, frankly. They got nothing to play for when they get home. As long as they're running around a bit in the daytime, they probably do with a bit of relaxation. Relaxation can improve performance. It's not like a completely revelatory idea, that, but of course in England, people looking warm and happy, clearly a lack of moral fibre.
Well, look, I think the question is this. I don't think too many people actually believe this is some kind of reward for failure, but it's certainly going to look like that if performances don't improve. The whole point about going away to Dubai is not only to recharge batteries, but to get the squad together in a way that they haven't been this season. You know, the complacency that has been shown has been palpable from the beginning of the season onwards. Will it help Moyes gaining credibility in the dressing room? I'm not sure about that. Will it help the bean counters add a few more zeros on their Middle East rack of sponsors? Absolutely. Juan Mata spoke this week about how there were very long days with lots of sponsor commitments.
Yeah, that's really good for performance, as our pre-season has clearly shown over the past few years. The highlight of the trip for me, I mean, not that I took the trip, but the highlight of the stuff coming out of the trip for me, definitely the pictures with Diego. Kind of interesting to look through all the different pictures and see what was captured. There's a kind of identikit quality to some of them, but not the ones with Juan Mata and Robin van Persie, where it's like, you can see, oh, Diego's actually heard of these people. The one with Alex Boutner, a particular highlight.
Yes, Boutner not fit to lace Maradona's boots, of course. I thought it was quite funny how much Instagram Boutner has put out in the past week, and the fact that he's, you know, arguably the worst player in United's squad, yet he's making the biggest splash. Well, you know, there you go. I suppose he's got to enjoy it while he gets it. The most interesting picture, though, was Javier Hernandez and Diego Maradona in something of a romantic embrace.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's obviously telling him to keep his chin up and all that stuff. Januzaj and Maradona, slightly frightening image that. It's like, right, Adnan, what you want to do is the opposite of all the things that this man did off the pitch. On the pitch, you can do pretty much the same things. That'd be great.
Yes. If he has half the career that Maradona did, he'll turn into a fine player indeed. Amid all the stories of the ample use of mountains of cocaine that Maradona used to use, we shouldn't forget what a fantastic player he was. I mean, I think he's probably, along with Zidane, the finest player that I've seen during my lifetime, you know, not talking about recordings from before that. Absolutely outstanding player, completely destroyed England in the 86 World Cup, was brilliant at Barcelona, even better at Napoli, fantastic for the national side, and you know, a real icon. Never quite made it as a football coach or manager, though, funnily enough.
No, I mean, you know, he was fun to have around, I'm sure. Maybe Moyes could just bring him back with him and have him as sort of general all-round mascot stroke assistant manager type figure.
I'm not sure that's going to have the effect we'd like to, somehow. Perhaps we can get Eric in there as well, and a few other bad boys of the 80s and 90s.
Talking of assistant managers, rumours this week that René Molenstein, as anyone who listens to Football Weekly knows he should be called, was at Carrington causing much buzz until people worked out that that's one of his lads is in one of the youth teams there.
Yes, I mean, a lot of talk about Molenstein returning to Old Trafford in some kind of coaching capacity. I think that is not likely. He's burnt many bridges already. So, a really interesting season for him. I mean, he started the campaign as a coach at United. I mean, ended last season as effective assistant manager, even if he wasn't in reality. Started the season as a coach at United, ended up not taking a job under Moyes' direction, ostensibly because it wasn't senior enough in terms of what he wanted to do. Took the assistant manager's job at Anzhi McManaman's club, and then took over as manager. He flirted with the Qatari FA around a technical role, and then ended up as a head coach at Fulham, and then managers. How many jobs is that in the last 6 months? It's got to be at least 7 or 8.
It's a lot of jobs. And talking of Fulham, I was thinking about the fact that never in history, surely, has a club undergone a more rampant image change from the start of the season to the end of the season, because at the beginning of the season, managed by like the most avuncular man in the history of football management, you got Ruiz, Berbatov and Adel Taarabt. They're literally like the poster boys for not working hard. And now it's, you know, Steve Sidwell and Scott Parker managed by Felix Magath, which is like work personified.
Yeah. Do you think the owner had an overreaction, maybe?
Maybe. It's like electing a far left government in response to a far right one or something, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, look, Magath will get results. I mean, whether he's got enough time, 12 games to go in the Premier League is an open question, really. I mean, he's got results wherever he has managed and got results with small teams. Remember, he won the Bundesliga with Wolfsburg of all clubs. So, you know, his methods do work. He knows what he's doing tactically. He does work players hard. He has a lot of very, you know, strict demands, but it's all changed again. Wilkins and Kirbishley have gone. Molenstein is Moulenstein, as right-minded people say it, has still got a job. In reality, it's all about the compensation before he goes. So clearing out the entire backroom staff, McGather's bringing in his own people, and we'll see if it works. It's a massive, massive gamble, isn't it? Anyway, but that's a digression, I suppose. The long and short of it is I don't think our former coach is returning to Carrington.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I suspect it may not be a coincidence that David Moyes was thousands of miles away when René Moulenstein turned up at Carrington.
Well, not least because when he turns up at a job, the manager gets sacked.
Which, in this case, might not be the end of the world, although I think certainly there would be less complacency if Moyes was replaced by McGath. I'm not advocating that for 1 second. Because, he does have success for a bit, and then all his players want to die, so they either leave or get him sacked, so...
Which is an interesting contrast with Moyes, of course, who had the reputation of working the boot camp and training players hard, and talked about overtraining in the summer, didn't he? And Robin van Persie is repeatedly and reportedly unhappy with the training methods that Moyes instigates. And then we have Dubai, which is players lounging around on the beach and at the masseur's table and at the cocktail bar and with Diego Maradona. Apparently there was some training in there at some point.
I really enjoyed the picture of Michel Salgado's kid with Tom Cleverley. Clearly, he looked so excited, the kid, clearly proving that Tom Cleverley is right and he would be massively rated in Spain.
Yes, when I grow up, I'd like to be as good as Tom Cleverley. Michel Salgado was a fine player in his day, not perhaps when he came to England.
No, but an excellent player nonetheless. So, talking of excellent players, we've got some time this week. Last week we talked a lot about the problems of David Moyes, and I've pretty much resigned myself to believing that United would probably be best served by replacing him in the summer, although I'm sure it won't happen, but whatever. We do have to bring some players in the summer. Whenever I ask for Twitter questions, people ask us about transfers, and since we've got some time this week, @Tomzor says, out of the defensive signings we've been linked with, which do you and Ed prefer and think are the most realistic? Rumours this week also that Patrice Evra will in fact sign a contract extension.
Well, I mean, that's a protection measure for Evra. It's a clause in his contract, it seems, that allows him to sign a 1-year extension if he played a certain amount of games. So it is reported in the papers. And why wouldn't he? Because it ensures he gets another year's salary if a club doesn't come off in the summer. I think in reality he'll be given a free transfer in the summer, and so we shouldn't expect that Evra will be at United next season.
Oh, that's very upsetting. I mean, not that he's exactly been great this season, but I was sort of heartened by the idea that Patrice might not be leaving, but you're saying he's definitely off.
I would be really surprised if he's not. Mind you, I didn't mention it on last week's pod, but it did occur to me when watching some highlights of the Arsenal game again after we'd recorded the pod, that Patrice engaged in one of the most criminal pieces of defending I've ever seen. And I thought I was going to bring it up on the pod and forgot to, but there was one particular Arsenal attack down the right-hand side in which Patrice Evra literally walked back, allowing play to unfold while he did not a jot to stop it. And it's that kind of thing which people tell me happens all the time. I don't think it really does.
People tell you?
People tell me.
All right, Moisey.
Yeah. People tell me that Patrice was a good player once. No, I mean, I think some of the complacency I spoke about earlier has perhaps creeped into Evra's game. He could do with a new challenge, I suspect, or a new manager, one of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. So, defensive signings then. Who have we been linked to? Who's realistic? Who do you rate?
Mangala of Porto is the big one. I think his buyout clause is something like €50 million. I can't see United pulling that one off for a central defender. Who else have we been linked with this week, Paul? You're the man for lists.
I don't think we've been linked with anyone this week. Who's that lad that you say is too slow? Ezekiel Garay.
Yeah.
That's one that won't go away. Go away.
Bad. Go away, yes. Good idea, Paul. Go away. Which is what people have been telling you on Twitter, I believe, after you posted your latest Moyes Out piece.
It's not been too bad. I'm relatively unscathed by the experience. I feel a bit relieved. This morning I hit publish. I was like, oh no, it's going to be a hell of a day. But no, it's all right. People, generally speaking, actually, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I tried to write something measured that wasn't just saying frothing at the mouth, saying he's rubbish and get rid of him, but saying that actually it's not ridiculous Chelsea-style short-term thinking to sack a massively underperforming coach after a year. That's actually quite a reasonable response to the scenario. And generally speaking, it seems that very, very very, very many people agree with that sentiment. I don't think the support for Moyes amongst United fans runs particularly deep, although it is still out there.
Yeah, and of course the other player that United have been heavily linked with, scouts at William Carvalho this week. He's not a defender, he's a midfielder, very talented young player at Sporting. I've seen him on a couple of occasions. Couldn't give you a deep insider's knowledge of this one. Don't watch an awful lot of Portuguese football, but people say he's a very talented player.
So what do you think defenders-wise? Like, is there anyone that you think we should be going hell for leather that's a realistic target? Because surely it's like we've got a massive problem down the spine and the side. Central defence and central midfield desperately need addressing in the summer.
Yeah, so I mean this is an interesting one in that the challenges really are at central defence and left back, and the players that United might want to go after, like Rodriguez in Germany, and the Monaco left-back Kurzawa, who I think has come on leaps and bounds this season, I think might be a good purchase as well. Plenty of players that United have scouted reportedly, up to a dozen different left-backs and central defenders that the club's after. It's going to come down to money at the end of the day, and those players who are perhaps a little more affordable than Mangala will be, I suspect, the ones targeted.
Yeah, because I've been thinking quite a lot about what you said about the money in the bank account and how that's going to impact on the available finances for transfers, and really, like, we've got nowhere near enough money from what you were saying to fix the gaps we've got with the sufficient quality. It's going to be a rough summer, isn't it?
Well, look, if you take as read that at least 5 or 6 players are likely to leave, then that's an awful lot of money United have to spend. It seems like the club's committing nearly £80 million to Wayne Rooney's new contract. That doesn't affect financial fair play insofar as it comes out of the total pot that United can spend, both in terms of European, that's gross spend versus gross costs minus infrastructure and youth, or the Premier League one, which is a similar formula plus this kind of cap on the amount of wages increase that can be spent per year. So it's a £4 million increase per year you're allowed. So Rooney's new contract will affect that, but it doesn't affect the amortisation on player purchases, and effectively resets his value. So, in accounting terms, it doesn't make a huge impact on United. The real impact is where United have to spend really big transfer fees, of course, because then the club have to think about not only the impact on year one, but the impact over time of writing down the cost of that player.
My head just exploded.
The point being, United have to spend a hell of a lot of money this summer, probably, to replace 5 or 6 senior experienced players. It's not kids that United are letting go. There's some room in the wage budget, but there is a limit to how much the club can realistically spend, both in terms of how much cash the club has and how much that impacts not only on FFP in this year but also in the subsequent years too. So there's a fine line United have to cross here. So if we're talking about spending 150 or 200 million, I'm not sure I would believe it for those reasons. I think we may touch 3 figures in millions, that is, maybe, but I wouldn't have thought it would be much more than that. Then again, United have already spent something like £75 million this year.
Yeah, which is like, you wonder what budget that's come out of. Did it come out of last summer's transfer budget, in which case that all makes sense, or is it not really done like that? Are we just operating a completely reactive strategy in the transfer market? I mean, it's clear from the scouting activity that we're not trying to be reactive this summer, but really plan for it, and you do hope that that's what's going on, because for all the talk of, I would really love it if we had a different manager going into next season, but I think it's really unlikely. And since we are stuck with Moyes, we might as well get the best out of the good parts, which is this kind of very committed scouting, but anyway, we'll see.
We certainly will, yeah. I mean, it'll certainly be an interesting summer. Of course, this is we're presuming that Moyes and Woodward can get the job done. I suppose Matter tells us that in certain circumstances they can, but you wouldn't expect United to be sending faxes around Europe in desperate hope of signing players. Once again, you'd hope we'd have learned a lesson, but it's going to be challenging too, because think about the gap between the end of the season and the World Cup not being much, and the gap between the World Cup and pre-season tours starting not being very much, and even worse if United are in the Europa League. So not a lot of time in the summer to get the job done. Suggests to me that United ought to be making their moves right now.
At Gary J. Matthews asks, I would like to know how to support a club when you actively disagree with every aspect of how they're being run. It's a very good question. I think you just grit your teeth and bear it, I think is the general gist of it, right? You sing the players' names really loud, that sort of thing.
We've been doing that for 8 years, haven't we?
Yes.
At least on the financial and the ownership side of things. Not liking the way the management side of things is being run is probably new to many of us.
Well, I mean, it's sort of new, although it's not like we've been exactly like massive Fergie cheerleaders on this podcast for the last 4 years or whatever it is.
We say it as we see it, Paul.
Yes, we do indeed. I got people keep saying, I don't like how negative you've become, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure nothing's changed. I sort of vaguely, jollily, optimistically muddle through thinking United are not very well run and haven't been for a long time. Anyway. At FFScout_Granny says, if the Glazers did decide Moyes has to go, how would you expect Sir Alex to react to that? Would they have the final say? They definitely would have the final say, and I think Sir Alex's reaction is quite an interesting topic.
Yes, well, I mean, he's not had much to say on the topic of Moyes' performance this season, has he? He's not exactly been tub-thumping for David Moyes, but then again, he's offered no criticism either. He's been a silent partner in all of this. It was Sir Alex that got Moyes the job, so you'd expect him to be seeing it through and supporting Moyes in the boardroom as well. I mean, Ferguson is a non-executive director. He has no real say in any of this at all, other than he's a big name and a big influence. But the Glazers have shown with their NFL side in Tampa that they're quite prepared to sack coaches. So if they feel that they're not getting what they want, and particularly their share price and sponsorship strategy is being threatened, then they'll give him the boot, no doubt.
At Mickers says, if Moyes gets fourth next year, has he earned a third season? Oh my God. Or must we legitimately challenge for the title next year? Oh, I don't want to...
the ifs and buts and maybes and you know, what is the cause and the effect here?
I mean, I guess if we're not looking like we're competing for the title by midway through the next season, then that's when proper action might be taken. But we'll see, I guess. I think if he storms to a lead in the title and then sort of dips off late in the season and finishes fourth, then it's fairly likely that he'll be let go for sort of failing at the final hurdle. And if it's a desperate scramble to get fourth, then he might be let go for underperforming early in the season. So either way, hopefully we're not going to have to worry about that.
We'll see. Look, here's your key metric, and this is the one I would watch if I was you. United share price 20% off since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. 20%. And in fact, post-IPO, 2 years or nearly 2 years post-IPO, it has given investors a 6% return. You'd have been better off, much better off, sticking your money in a bank. That doesn't sound like good money for any investor, and I'm sure the Glazers will be watching that rather nervously.
Yeah, absolutely. At Craig J. Twig says, the Maradona United pictures got me thinking, which of them would be most likely to be talked into being a drug mule for Diego? It's got to be Chicharito. Like, he just looks like he would be innocent enough to fall for it. Diego's like, oh, listen, please take this traditional Argentinian present to my friend in Manchester, Fat Larry.
Remember that time when United signed a homeless bum for £7 million? Yeah, I reckon he's your man.
And at Paul Gunning 1 says, if Moyes did sign Maradona in his prime, would he stick him on the wing?
Yes. Yeah, get it out wide and get it in, son.
At Ammon Malpal asking almost exactly the same question about Cristiano. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, Cristiano was quite good on the wing when he genuinely played as a winger rather than the sort of inside forward he is today.
Reading this, it says, would he play him at left back and get him to the line to swing in crosses? Yeah, he probably would. At Steve says, United have made even strawberries taste funny this season. Why is that? I cannot answer that question. It's not strawberry season yet. I think that's why. At Office_Monkey says, why is the Metrolink so utterly terrible? He didn't use the word terrible. I suspect because it's hard to run a public transport network effectively.
Goes to some funny places as well, mind you. Some odd planning there. Of course, Manchester was supposed to have had an underground system many, many moons ago, and the central government refused to fund it. Controversy.
Yeah, because they didn't care about the north, right? That's the general gist of it. At Mr. Daddy D asks an interesting question. Charlton, Best or Law? Which one would you have in the team today?
Georgie Best. Bit of flair.
I'm really sad to answer this question with any answer other than George Best, because anytime you're given that option, you should be saying George Best just for the glorious aesthetics that would mean. But we would so badly need Bobby Charlton in this team. It's unreal. I'd have to go with Bobby Charlton, I'm afraid.
Fair enough.
At Liz Worsley, friend of the Rantcast, asks, how likely is it that Moyes will quit rather than be sacked?
No.
Could stress push him to throw in the towel? No.
I wouldn't have thought so, although there have been times when it looked like he was cracking up. I mean, I think his workaholic nature and his kind of determination says that he's not going to quit. He's going to keep going. But the pressure has been telling. I don't think it will tell in terms of a resignation.
No, I just don't think he's the type. I really don't. I think the only way he resigns is if he's kind of talked into it as part of a settlement strategy or something like that, But anyway, at JSF_7 says, my question is, why is the Rantcast being recorded so early? It's that time of year when Ed starts his international travelling. So I think we've got quite a lot of this ahead of us, haven't we, Ed?
I've got a few scouting missions coming up. I think I will be, here in Barcelona and in the east coast of the States and the west coast and possibly Korea and Australia before April. So there you go.
It's very exciting, isn't it? And also sounds like a complete nightmare as well. At Cole007 says, catching up on the podcast, what's your opinion on crumpets? This is a very good question. I like crumpets, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, the listeners to the Rantcast, that I don't like crumpets, but they're just slightly too thick. So it's like, you put the butter on and you put the honey on, and then you have a bite, and the top bit of the bite is all nice and buttery and honey-y, but the bottom bit's a bit sort of dry and floury and crumpety.
Don't tell me you can't get your mouth around something meaty.
Oh dear. None of that talk. At Supermomo76 says, how do you think the MUFC youth setup can be improved? A very interesting question.
Well, of course, interesting potential move by the Premier League. Some talk about bringing in a B League of some kind, with the aim that they would, the clubs would be able to get more players into this B team and have a structure from under 18s, under 21s through to B team and first team, and have a more competitive route to the first team. At the moment, the leap from under 21s to the Premier League is too big for many players to make it, and it's a problem at United as well. They also don't play enough games, so you can have a player rarely playing or playing 5 or 6 times in 6 months, which just isn't enough for a young player, which is why most of the big Premier League sides use the loan system extensively. Chelsea have more than 20 players out on loan. United, I think, loaned out 11 on transfer deadline day in January. So this is the way that players are getting some competitive football at the moment, which kind of means the youth setup's a little bit redundant. It's a matter of hoovering up as many players as possible, coaching them the right way through young age groups, and as soon as they're 18, getting them out on loan.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't know, it's difficult to build an identity if you do that, I think, a little bit, because the loan spells has such a say on the way the players develop, and it's such a, I don't know, the whole thing's such a lottery anyway, and so few players actually make it to the first team at Manchester United, and something like that might be a really good idea.
Well, in Spain they have a B team system, and they actually play in competitive leagues, so which is not the proposal here. So I don't think it would be acceptable. England historically has had a lot of professional football clubs. I think if you started introducing Manchester United B into League One, that would kill off some professional football clubs, and I don't think anyone actually wants that. But a Premier League B, which is about development, might help, and it would be a mix of under 23s and overage players who need some fitness and that kind of thing. Whether that would help the clubs that are currently benefiting from the loan system, who are effectively getting talented young players on the cheap, is another question as well.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Birmingham, and Birmingham City are a club with absolutely horrendous financial problems because their owner had all his assets frozen, and they've really benefited from Manchester United players on loan. Lingard for the first part of the season, they've got Makeda at the moment scoring, and someone else there as well that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it makes a huge difference to those really cash-strapped clubs. Anyway, talking of smaller clubs, and a final Twitter question of the week this week from @PaulGunning1 saying, will David Moyes ever hit the tactical heights of his opposite number this weekend as Manchester United play against Crystal Palace?
Well, interesting this one, isn't it? Because Moyes seen as a pragmatic manager. Perhaps Tony Pullis is the most pragmatic manager. Interesting. He was always seen as the long ball merchant at Stoke, and he's actually got Crystal Palace playing some nice football now. Yeah,
absolutely, which is really interesting, isn't it? And it just goes to show, like, at Stoke he really was trying to make the best of the resources he had. I wonder if, not to be reductive about this, but the fact that Stoke Stadium is such a nightmare weather-wise, I wonder whether that was part of the reason that he thought, well, let's just get it long and hoof it up to Crouchy sort of thing.
Well, it's a little bit of a simplification, but I see where you're coming from. I mean, look, I think he's a pragmatist. He's coming in the short term. He's taking a team built by Ian Holloway that was built to play football. He doesn't have the players there to play a physical game, so he's building on what he's got, but he's getting results. 7 wins since he came in at the end of November, 5 of them at home. They've got a terrific record at Selhurst Park, got some good points on the road too. Right now it looks like they're going to comfortably stay safe. Beat United. Well, we'll see about that one, but comfortably stay safe, and you wouldn't have believed that after the first few months of the season. It looked like Holloway and his players were well out of their depth, and not only that, but they've added some good players in the window too. I mean, Tom Ince is a very talented player. I'm sure he'll go on to bigger things in Crystal Palace. Lots of respect to Palace, but I'm sure he's in the shop window. Joe Ledley, a decent player at Cardiff, went up to Scotland for a while. He's injected some passing talent into the midfield then. Scott Dan, very experienced, surprised he's moved up a couple of divisions. It looked like his career was on the way out, but immediately added extra resources at the back. So, some astute purchases. They've got a big squad there anyway. Clearly weren't the players that Pullis wanted, and whatever you think about Pullis, he's getting results with Palace right now.
I mean, yes, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because they did look dead and buried, and you thought, well, Pullis is a really sensible appointment because he'll be able to do what it takes to get them back up from the Championship and then probably keep them up. But the fact that he's just absolutely transformed that side and made them into one of the form sides in the Premier League is completely remarkable, isn't it? And I was joking about them comfortably beating Man United, but if it was just the form tables going up against each other, Palace have got a fairly significant edge in that regard, haven't they?
Well, yeah, remarkable run of form. And look, the thing is, you change your manager, you're not guaranteed better results. There have been plenty of studies on this. There might be a short-term boost, but over the longer-term piece, bad sides are bad sides. And the fact that he's got Palace playing not only decent football, but winning results when, for example, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hasn't been able to do that at Cardiff. Meulenstein couldn't do it at Fulham either. And he's had longer, but Gus Poyet not been able to do it at Sunderland. So, Palace are outperforming all of their relegation rivals at the moment, and it's probably going to save them. Of course, 12 games to go, things can change, and it is still very tight down at the bottom, but they were dead and buried in October, and they're no longer dead and buried.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that is a huge testament to Pullis, and it's ridiculous, but there's no denying that this is going to be a challenging game for Manchester United. Beat Palace 2-0 early in the season. Moyes' first win, I think that was, wasn't it? We hoped it would be the first of many. It turned out to be the first of a few. I mean, we beat them 2-0 that day, but they're unrecognisable from that team. And it's hard to have any faith or any certainty that United are going to go there and definitely get a result, isn't it?
Well, yeah. And, they've got a great home support there, so the crowd will definitely be up for it. They had a fine win against West Brom last time out, and they had the game against Everton postponed, which has given them a bit of a long break, but, along with United as well. So they're coming into this in form, fresh, with some new players, confident because they've been getting results at home, confident because they've been taking on some bigger teams and putting in creditable performances, even if they haven't quite got the results against the bigger teams recently. And so this is going to be a challenge for United. It's one of those grounds. There's certainly some United history there, isn't there? And I don't think this is a foregone conclusion for United at all. Definitely not.
If Adnan Januzaj fly kicked someone in the crowd, that would be at the very least interesting. I don't know what kind of team Moyes is going to put out. You'd think that he will have a good amount of mind on Europe in midweek, but then you'd also think that he should have his entire squad fresh enough to play 2 games in a week, wouldn't you? Especially since, if I'm right, there isn't another league game the weekend after that, is there?
No, there isn't. Yeah, another break until United play West Brom. So, yeah, I mean, he's got to put his strongest team out twice. I mean, the whole point about this break was that you now go kick on. Juan Mata talked about United chasing 4th, I think 11 points behind, and the goal difference. It's impossible, but I suppose you never know. It'd be a massive shame if United eased off from here on out. I mean, not least because it'd be quite impossible for United to turn it on in Europe and then relax in the Premier League and expect the results to go their way. So it's every game's a cup final now. United have to perform, just have to. And we said that about Stoke, we said that about Fulham, we said that about Arsenal, and we got 3 pretty poor performances, different types of performances, but not great in any of them. It's about time United put in performance. It's been quite a while since we were impressed by them.
I mean, yeah, and we keep expecting to be, and it keeps not happening. And once again, I kind of expect to be. You know, it's Charlie Brown and Lucy kicking the football, isn't it? She's holding it. She says definitely going to hold it in place this time, and Charlie Brown runs up and she takes it away, and he falls over. And I feel a bit like that, predicting a comfortable Manchester United win. But nonetheless, like Charlie Brown, I am going to predict a comfortable Manchester United win. I'm going to say that we're going to win that one 3-1. We're going to score 3 whole goals. That seems ridiculously far-fetched, doesn't it?
Bold. Well, are we doing predictions now? Well, yeah. I think United might draw this one. I think it might be 2-2.
Absolutely. I think that's a reasonable prediction. Although it's incredible to think that we're predicting 2-2 draws against Crystal Palace, isn't it?
The mighty Palace, yeah. I mean, Tony Pullis keeps on this record. They'll be calling it Crystal Pullis, won't they, before the end of the season?
Good, I like it. So, after that, we've got a nice, happy jaunt over to Greece for the game against Olympiakos. They are, of course, a very famous Greek side with a ton of history, which I don't know anything about. So, in a minute, after we've heard from you, Ed, I'm going to turn to Olympiakos expert Sleepy Nick, old-time friend of the Rantcast. Long-time listeners might remember him from the coverage of the Champions League final that ended 1-1 at half-time. Ed, what do you make of this game? What are you expecting? What are you looking forward to? What are you worried about?
We're talking about reductive coverage. That was good stuff, that Champions League show. Yeah, ended it where it was meant to be ended. Well, I'll tell you this: Olympiakos in a weak league are a decent side. They're 20 points ahead of their major rivals, 20. So I suppose the challenge for them is to keep the intensity up in the domestic games and be able to translate that into Europe. They've got some good players, including the mighty Joel Campbell on loan from Arsenal. Of course, they've just lost their principal striker, Kostas Mitroglou, who went to Fulham for £11 million about 3 days before Fulham sacked their manager. Now, there's some good management for you. Their goalkeeper is none other than Roy Carroll.
I mean, this is very exciting, but sometimes he's not their first choice keeper, I hear, so...
I hear this too, and Javier Saviola's there, the brilliant Argentinian who was never quite as brilliant as everyone expected him to be. Definitely on the way down in terms of his career. So, they've got some decent players, mostly expats in terms of the better players, and they're winning their league by absolutely miles. They get a very good atmosphere, and it will be a challenge for United as always. I tell you what I do expect though. I know more about United than I do about Olympiakos. I do expect United to be very cautious. I mean, if you look at the performance at Real Sociedad, the performance at Shakhtar Donetsk, you'd expect a performance more like that than the one at Bayer Leverkusen, who I think in retrospect were a little bit starstruck.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're going to go and play for a 1-0 win, aren't they? And that is great when it works, right? That's the thing about those away performances in Europe, is if you can nick the away goal and keep a clean sheet, then you look like a genius. But it's a high risk strategy, and I don't know. I feel like basically, if United are going to stand any chance of building something here, they should be just going out to try and blow teams away, because it's their best chance. If you look at our personnel, we are so much better suited to go in and trying to batter someone than we are to trying to sustain a tight 1-0 or whatever.
Well, yes, with all the flair players that United have, I don't think that necessarily plays into the tactics that Moyes prefers, does he? I think this will be about control. And the funny thing is, we've made so many comparisons between Ferguson and Moyes, and how Moyes is underperforming in comparison to Ferguson. Well, the United's tactics in Europe have looked remarkably Ferguson-esque. Fergusonian, remarkably. And, I mean, if you think about the last flair side United had in Europe, sort of 08 time period, ever since then United have become more and more and more cautious, and it'll be about control. United will try and keep possession of the ball, don't necessarily do that very well through midfield these days, and try and nick a goal from a set piece or a break. Don't necessarily break very well either, given the lack of pace in the side. But that's what it will be. I would be really surprised if United tried to open this game out. I'd be shocked, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, the 08 side, of course, ground out a result against Barcelona, didn't they?
Very much.
it, so even that wasn't exactly flairful. I mean, the last real flair side we had was 99, right? That's the last time we really played with proper flair in Europe, maybe the season after that as well.
Yeah, well, the narrative has it that Real Madrid victory at Old Trafford the season afterwards was the one where the coin dropped in Ferguson's head and he became more cautious. I think that's a little bit simplistic, but certainly you can see an evolution, and this is what Moyes will do. He's United going to try and nick it and then win the game at home, and we'll see whether that works. Of course, the home side, complete opposite. It's about starting fast, it's about building up pressure, it's about putting United under pressure, and it's about seeing whether United will crack.
Yeah, absolutely, we'll see. But before all that, let's have a chat with Sleepy Nick about Olympiakos. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Sleepy Nick off of the internet. How you doing, Nick?
Not bad, thanks, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. We, as soon as the draw was announced, I thought of you, because this is officially the Sleepy Nick derby, isn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, my father is Greek, of course, and this is his club. So growing up, I've obviously supported both. But living in Manchester and going to my first game when I was about 5 or 6 years old, there's only been one club for me, really, and that's Manchester United, as you know.
So you'll be supporting the Reds in this one. Have you apologised to your dad? Is he all right with that?
Yeah, we've had. You can imagine the email trail, can't you? These last couple of weeks, lots of interesting emails. But he knows I'm with United, and just like I know he's with Olympiakos. Some funny email exchanges, to say the least.
So, what can you tell us about Olympiakos, and how much of a threat are they to Manchester United?
Well, right, where'd you start with that one? I mean, traditionally you'd think this is, a banker for United, wouldn't you? In the years gone by, especially the last 3 or 4 years, Olympiakos have been absolutely dreadful in Europe. They're kind of peaking in the early noughties and having a few decent knockout competition kind of games. But nowadays, you just don't know what to expect from United. So with that, I think you could even argue that Olympiakos are favourites, certainly for the first leg of the tie. Massive expectation in Greece at the moment, my dad's telling me. I mean, they're kind of 25 games unbeaten at the moment, 100% record at home. In fact, the only 2 games they've not won were away, and both were 0-0. So the fans are really kind of looking at what's going on over here in Manchester and really kind of licking their lips. So they're going to be a threat, I think, and it'll be more closely fought than perhaps many of us are imagining.
We've had lots of Twitter questions about how much the departure of Mitroglou will affect Olympiakos' chance against us. Was he very much their main man?
Well, yes and no, really. He was certainly the one that's come through the ranks in the last 3 or 4 years, and we've always had kind of high promises for him. And he's just found some magical consistency this season and last, really. I mean, there's some statistic, I think he had 3 or 4 hat-tricks in 6 or 7 games at some point, including Champions League hat-trick this year. So he just really hit a rich vein of form. So in that sense, he is a massive loss to Olympiakos. Obviously, he's going to spearhead Greece's World Cup chances in the summer. But in all honesty, I'm not sure whether it's such a big loss. I think with the recruitment of Saviola last year, I think he's going to spearhead the attack. At 32 years old, he's not near his kind of peak back in his Barca day and in his heyday. But he really is taking the Greek league by storm. 11 goals in 22 games. So I'm not sure they'll miss Mitroglou as much as they perhaps would have thought perhaps 4 or 5 months ago. And I'm sure they'll pack the midfield and just play Saviola up front anyway. And he'll cause us some harm, I suppose. His movement's always been fantastic.
The disappointing news is that I hear that Roy Carroll is not Olympiakos' first choice goalkeeper.
That's correct, yeah. Whilst he's had a run in the team, mostly last season, we've had Roberto firstly on loan from Benfica, and now just kind of secured his services long term in January. Roberto's just been absolutely fantastic, and unfortunately Carl's just had to sit and bide his time on the bench, to be honest. But apparently he loves the life, he loves the Greek life. He loves going for coffee with all the kind of players. That's what he says. Infamously said, that's all the Greeks do is drink coffee and smoke cigarettes. So he seems to love it there, even though he is on the bench. But Roberto's a fantastic keeper, and he'll be very hard to dislodge, to be honest.
So who are them, other than Saviola and Roy Carroll from the bench, who are the main threats to United in an attacking sense?
In an attacking sense? Well, we've got kind of a young Dutch lad called Campbell who seems to be doing really well. I'm not sure whether he'll start because he's typically up front with Saviola in the domestic league. There's a potential he might well start from the left. Other than that, we've just brought in someone called Perez. Now, I don't know much about him at all, but I've seen him a couple of times since we've bought him in the January transfer window. And he looks a bit Nanny-esque to me. He's quite tricky, the old step over, very direct, runs at the full-back, and I'm pretty sure he'll start on the right or left side. So he's perhaps one to look out for, especially if he's playing down the right. Pat Travais of late, if he can get behind everyone once he's wandered upfield, we could be struggling there. But again, a bit Nanny-esque. So yeah, he's hit and miss from what I've seen, but tricky nonetheless.
Okay, so on to United then. One thing that I want to do while you're on the line is we always play the game of guessing the lineups in advance, and you're well known to be a master of that game. Assuming no major injuries against Palace, how do you think Moyes lines up the team against Olympiakos, and also how do you think he should line up the team?
Good question. How he might do and how he should, that's the key question with Moyes, isn't it? All the time there's something that we think he should be doing that looks glaringly obvious, and then he seems to go the other way. But the first thing that springs to mind, you go into the Karaiskakis Stadium, the fans are going to be absolutely electric. They're going to pack the midfield and try to sneak a 1-0. I think he's going to go with caution. I think, I know you're famous for saying that, to be honest, aren't you, Paul? He seems to be just obsessed with caution and reacting to other teams rather than being proactive himself. So I think one on the team sheet, unfortunately, is Ashley Young. Whether he starts left or right, I don't know. Probably going to go Mata right, Young left, Carrick and Cleverly sitting in, Rooney behind Van Persie. I can't really see it being too much different. You might throw in Valencia. There might be a case for Fletcher, but he's looking a bit jaded these days, which just leaves the back four. I mean, anyone's guessed the back four, to be honest, but you're probably looking at Smalling going to right back, providing a bit of stability there because they're very strong down the left side at the moment, Olympiakos, and then one of Jones or Evans partnering Vidic. What are your thoughts on that one, Paul?
I think that sounds about right. I wouldn't be shocked to see Ryan Giggs alongside Carrick, or even maybe Giggs and Jones in central midfield, because he does seem to value Giggs in Europe tremendously. And he's not been... That's one of the things he's got right, actually, because Giggs has been pretty impressive in there in Europe a few times. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. That's a good shout, to be honest. He seems to play him roughly every 8 or 9 games, and it seems to be his calling. I just don't know whether Cleverly's booked himself a place, to be honest, with his performance against Arsenal. Not had a fantastic season, as we all know, but I think he did a really good job. The Emirates, just gets the ball, intercepts it, gives it, keeps it, and it doesn't go down too well with the fans, but, he's got a role to play in that team at the moment, with the massive gaping hole in the central midfield that's clear to everyone apart from the board. But, you've got a shout there with perhaps Giggs, but the other thing to kind of mention, Olympiakos' central midfield is quite strong, so whether Giggs will be seen too much of a risk, you've got Magnatis in there who's going to kind of take he's usually the captain, and he sometimes captains the national side as well. He's an up and down kind of Roy Keane type player, nowhere near as skillful, but really kind of feisty, and won't let you settle on the ball whatsoever. And by the side of him, you've got a relatively new signing in Dinga, and he was fantastic in League One last year. So they really do solidify the midfield for Olympiakos. So perhaps it is maybe even Fellaini, dare I say it. But to be honest, he's not had many matches, so I can't see him starting that game.
It'll be interesting to see. And talking of interesting, while we have got you here, Nick, what have you made of Moyes, and how much chance do you think there is that he'll be able to come good at some point in his spell as Man United manager?
Oh, again, tough one. I mean, logic says you must give him time, you must make him, give him time to mould his own squad, his own team, his own way of playing. But then, you look at the evidence today, which is a good, 5 or 6 months now. It may sound ludicrous to judge someone so soon, but he seems to only have one way of playing, and I'm just not sure that's the Manchester United way of playing. It certainly isn't getting us from our seats, so I can't imagine it will be doing Ferguson and the board, to be honest. At one point, they're going to have to sit down and say, is this working for us? Now, whether that's the summer, whether it's next summer, do you give him the famous 2 seasons? I'm not so sure. I think at some point they're going to have to make a decision. He's breaking all the records in the wrong way. It just doesn't look as though it could improve. Even if you were to sign Lionel Messi and Busquets or Xavi to really bolster that squad, it's all about the way you're instructing your teams to play. And his instruction, as you famously pointed out on the pod this week, is simply cross that ball. Whether you're on the edge of the 18, byline, halfway line, get that ball in the box, and we'll see whether little 5'4" Matter can get his head on the end of it. So it's a struggle, to be honest, Paul, and I'm with you 100% on this one.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show this week, and we'll probably have you on before the second leg.
Oh, fantastic, Paul. Yeah, thank you for having me anyway, mate.
No worries. Take care.
Cheers, mate.
Can't agree with anything he said there. Rubbish. No, I'm kidding. Nick, always forthright in his opinions, and our resident Greek expert. There aren't too many around.
No, so it's good that we've got one. Right, so predictions for the score in that game, Ed?
I think it'll be 0-0.
All right.
And whether that's a good result or not, I'm not sure, because United haven't exactly been good at Old Trafford this season. I'm going to predict a win. Why not? It's got ridiculous at this point. A 1-0 win to Man United. I'm predicting 2 wins in our next 2 games. This is definitely a prediction of heart over head, because I find it very unlikely that we're going to muster 2 wins. But the break in Dubai have done them a world of good. They've got themselves together. They've got all the monkey off their back. They've enjoyed hanging out with Diego Maradona. They're freshly inspired and ready to find the best in themselves again. Well, we'll see. I think the alternative to that scenario would be Diego Maradona, a whole bunch of bars, some beaches, Ferrari World, 10 days of relaxing.
I think it'll be great. What could possibly go wrong? Alright, so I think that'll do it for another show. We might have a week off next week, depending on Ed's travel plans and United's schedule. The combination of the 2 things. But we might get together to record a little mini pod or something. We'll see how it goes. But no promises for next week's show.
Yeah, we'll see what I can do. I've got to go hang out with Lionel and co. And, well, maybe not, since they're over in Manchester, and I'm not, but I will be hanging out and enjoying Barcelona 5, Manchester City 0.
Enjoy it, Ed. Say hi to Barcelona locals for me. Tell them I'm on their side for once. Mesquite un club indeed. Let's hope they beat the biggest club in Manchester.
Oh yeah. Massive indeed. Massive they are. And we'll see you next week.
See you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.